Lonely, I'm so lonely.
TikToks, I'm
Over.
the Rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. Your friendly neighborhood philosopher, D. Wood. And we have Suleiman here saying, "Where is David?" Right here, baby, right here. He's right here. And with him,
Right here, baby.
and with him is the apostate prophet.
That's me.
Apostate prophet. And we will be talking about one of the most prestigious awards a person could ever win. Some people strive for the Congressional Medal of Honor if you're a soldier. Actors strive to win Oscars. If you've done really, really great things in America, you can win the Medal of Freedom and so on. But only one person can win Antisemite of the Year in 2024. And that person was Candace Owens.
It kind of strikes me as a political move this time. I was kind of expecting there are many candidates, especially this year, that have been really trying very very hard to reach the status and receive this award. I would say that I would place some people above her when it comes to the performance in anti-Semitism. However, there is one thing that is significant about her, about Candace Owens, which is that she has had a very large impact, more so than these other jokers. And she has made a full twist and brought it to the mainstream to share this wonderful wisdom after much research, meaning reading her comment sections, to that Israel is evil, Jews are wrong, Jews are evil, Jews are basically behind all the problems in the world. Excuse me, not Jews, Frankists and Zionists.
Frankists. It's Frankenstein. Look at the message they tried to send in that book, that they're creating a monster. Frankenstein. Oh, so what you're saying there is there are obviously people who hate Jews more, who have more deranged conspiracy theories about Jews. But why Candace is special this year is you already had people who were following Nick Fuentes, right? You had those kinds of people, but people would look at that group and go, "Oh, come on, these guys are a bunch of Nazi creeps, right? They're not gonna be caring much what these guys are saying." And these guys already had kind of all the influence they're going to have. Maybe they pick up some more people as they go along, but that was already kind of a done deal. We know what kind of followers you have and so on. Whereas Candace has been building up a following for years of like conservatives and so on. And then, after years of not blasting away at the Jews for being Jews who are behind everything and conspiring behind behind closed doors, who have their hands in everything, now she's leading her followers in that direction. And they might have been people who weren't going to go in that direction, but because they're following Candace, they're now far more accepting of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and so on. And so is that basically what we're getting at here? That there
Yes,
could be people who are worse people, significantly worse people, more evil people. They hate Jews more and so on. So you're not saying she's anti-Semite of the year in that sense. It's that she's had a pretty big impact by bringing people who didn't have that view over to the conspiracy theory side.
yes. She has become known as Candace Owens and things like that for her recent actions and her recent behavior, the twisting of things and all that. It all started with reacting to October 7, reacting to what how Israel is handling the response to October 7, and then in the name of criticizing Israel. I mean, I'm just asking questions, guys. I'm just asking questions about Israel, and then she turned that into basically downplaying the Holocaust, questioning the medical experiments committed by the Nazis,
That was creepy.
justifying book burnings, and so on. It's just she even started like this path. She obviously recently got introduced to this whole anti-Semitism stick, and she was like, "Oh, this is nice. This is nice. People seem to love it." And I was just fired by my boss anyway, so by my Jewish boss anyway. Um, so let me just go at this. But she's approaching it from the dumbest perspectives. Like it's not even sophisticated. It's not even deeply well informed. For example, she went for the whole idea of the book burnings, and she started justifying the book burnings by saying, and guys, and we have been informed, and we have been told all the time that Nazis were evil because they burnt these books, but we never talk about what kind of books they were, and they were some really really bad books. And she goes into how the books burned were books about degeneracy and sexuality and so on. This is a very very low bar talking point because it is a lie, and it is a lie that Jew haters and neo Nazis learn very early on. They weren't the only books that were burned. Many books were burned, including pro peace books, including just completely regular books, regular novels by Jews, regular novels by people that the Nazi government didn't like. Books like there recently was a new movie about it. What's it called? All Quiet on the Western Front, a German novel written in the late 1920s. The book was burned. It wasn't about sexual perversion. It was about how harsh it was to be on the front and to be kind of disregarded as a soldier of Germany. The Nazis burned it and accused the author of being anti-German and pro-peace pacifist propagandist and so on. It wasn't just perversions and degeneracy and all that stuff. She is going down the route of approaching these pro-Nazi talking points from the most ignorant perspective. And the thing is, when you have a platform like her and she reaches millions of people, it gets very, very difficult to respond to her and take down her things because she makes the claim and she appeals to people who are hungry and who are at home and who for the first time in their lives finally agree with a black person, with a black woman. And I'm like, oh, she's so hot. She's so hot. Actually, a black woman who can say something intelligent. I thought they were all lower beings. Wow. And then they start following her and sharing her stuff. And this is what made her very influential and a very important anti-Semite. But yeah, there's a lot to go into.
Someone here said, provide your evidence for what books were burnt. I don't know if this is a person
Look up a
trolling.
list of what books were burned, and you will find the records of them, including by the Nazis themselves. You will find on that list the book I just mentioned, All Quiet on the Western Front. People have read it. Lots of people have read it. It's a very well-known book. There is nothing perverted in it.
Yeah,
They just didn't like it.
yeah. So I guess the idea. So here's the idea. Am I right, AP? That the Germans decided, hey, we're going to have all books that aren't in line with our propaganda. We're going to just go around burning those books so that people can't develop any ideas that are contrary to ours. And among those books are books promoting some sort of degeneracy, but also any books that were not in line with their propaganda. And so Candace comes out and defends them and says, "But look at these books that were promoting degeneracy. That's all the Germans were against. They didn't want this degeneracy." And you're saying they were actually burning all kinds of other books, and it was actually more because it wasn't in line with their propaganda.
Yes,
And then she ends up defending it.
And we have seen some of it when we went to the Holocaust Museum together just recently. It's one of those topics that you are presented with, where they give you examples of books that were burned and the evidence for it and so on. But they are books of all kinds of different varieties, scientific books, medical books, different theories, or just novels, poetry books, just random things that the Nazis thought, this is un-German. This is peaceful. This is anti-war propaganda. It needs to be banned. Burn it to the ground. And of course, everything written by Jews.
Yeah, everything by Jews. Kawee, what a quickie dink. And I'm sure Candace would say, but the Jews are degenerate, so that makes perfect sense. All right, guys. So we actually we're very open-minded, so we're actually going to let Candace defend herself here. We're going to look at a list of the finalists for Antisemite of the Year award for all of you. Oh, why can't Candace defend herself? How dare you attack? We're going to let her. We're going to let her. We've got multiple videos of Candace defending her claims and so on. So we are going to check out the list of the finalists so we can see her competition, what she was up against, the mountain of anti-Semites she had to climb to be the top Antisemite of the year. We will read the descriptions of some of the finalists. We will check out, for a summary, probably just go to the Wikipedia article, which lists them, and then we'll actually look at videos for some confirmation. We'll check out what she said to Piers Morgan, because Piers Morgan asked her about the claims of charges of anti-Semitism, and she actually gave an acceptance speech for accepting Anti-Semite of the Year awards. We're going to check all that out, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be action-packed and super based, but check this out. Let's see the finalists here. All right, these were the finalists. 2024 Anti-Semite of the Year, top 10 finalists, and this is from a channel called Stop Anti-Semitism. I don't know if they run the whole thing or if they're posting it or what. We'll find out maybe. But 2024 Anti-Semite of the Year, top 10 finalists. AP, how many of these people do you know? What do you know about them? Let's go. Hassan Piker, what do you know? The quick version.
Online gamer, streamer, or gamer turned streamer, who is one of the least informed people with an opinion online, but also very popular. He is a socialist, communist, leftist guy who advocates for hardline socialist revolutionary things, and also, for example, was completely praising the killing of a billionaire and so on.
If he had written a book that was available before World War II, would the Germans have burned his communist propaganda?
Yes.
Interesting. All right. Next up, we have Cori Bush. What do you know about her?
I know very little about her, except that she's part of the squad. I don't know much about her, to be honest.
Yeah, me neither. I'm trying to think. Fortunately, they have a description. They have a description of her, so we'll see, because I don't know either. John Cusack, the actor. I just know that he posted some tweets earlier this year or last year or something.
Well, he's been going hardcore anti-Israel and with like the most uninformed garbage opinions that normally come out of the Palestinian territories.
Right. So he's an actor, but yeah, I have to say, when I'm looking at the list, there are people who I know they've said things, but when I can't really think of what they've said, then I have to start wondering, can they really win this thing? So already I'm like, okay, don't know much about Cori Bush. I can't imagine her winning. Don't know much about this actor. Can't imagine him winning. But then we have Greta Thunberg. What do we know about Greta?
Who is that? Never heard of her.
How dare you say you don't know who I am? You've stolen my childhood with that remark, AP.
How dare you? Entire ecosystems are collapsing. She just went completely off the rails with after October 7th. She started accusing Israel of contributing to global warming and the climate crisis because they just will not let the Palestinians live in peace. She doesn't seem to understand that the war and the conflict exists not because Israel doesn't want the other side to exist. It's actually the opposite.
It's not the opposite. It's just because of the oil that's polluting the environment. How dare you?
Then we have Jake Shields. Now, Jake should not be on this list, right? Sometimes you have terrorists, right, who carry out a terrorist attack, and we think it's because of the person's ideology. Other times they say, oh, this person had mental health problems, and that gets overused. Like, how come every single new terrorist attack they say this person has mental problems or something like this? Like, how do so many people develop sudden onset jihad syndrome and decide that, oh, I just have to go out and slaughter unbelievers in the name of Allah? So it gets overused. But guess what? Occasionally there are people who simply have mental health problems and they go out and do crazy stuff. That's kind of like Jake Shields. He's a guy who's been punched in his face so much that you can't exactly blame him. And guys, I'm fairly serious right now in that you take like football players who become violent over time, and then they eventually examine their brains and they find out that their brains are mush from concussions and so on. Yeah, you would them doing a bad thing is still a bad thing, but you have to realize it's because their brain has been damaged. They actually have brain damage. So I don't know if Jake Shields has suffered brain damage from all his fights. Keep in mind, guys, that's not an insult. That happens. I mean, Muhammad Ali, lots of fighters, it catches up with them over the years. You're getting punched in the head. So anyway, but he has said some sick, evil stuff. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and attributing at least some level of his sick, evil nonsense to him getting punched in the head. But what do we know about Jake?
Yeah, I would say that I agree with you there. He has, of course, the excuse of being very mentally, unfit to even, talk about regular stuff. So how can you really blame him? He seems to suffer from severe brain damage or something. I don't know. But and here's the thing: like some people will come and say, "Oh, why are you insulting instead of talking?"
That's not an insult. That can happen to fighters.
But here's the thing: I'm happy to insult him because I actually offered to. I actually offered to have a debate with him, and we know this, right? He even accepted my debate challenge.
He accepted. He challenged me. I accepted, and then he backed out of it.
Yeah. But I challenged him to a debate. He accepted and said, "If you have a big platform, of course we can do it." Immediately, Timcast jumped in and said, "We can host it." And then he wiggled out of it, like, "Oh, I'm not getting paid and all that, and it's too far away to travel and so on." It's like, man. What am I supposed to do? I offered this guy to sit together and to discuss these topics to show how ridiculously horrible and uninformed this guy is, but there is just no hope.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's the downside if his issues are a result of brain injury over the years. Again, guys, just not making fun of anyone at all. You become a fighter and you're going to get hit in the head, and some guys take it all their take the hits all their lives and they're fine, and some it affects them later on, and some it seems to amp up their aggression and hostility and their belief in conspiracy theories and so on. And so yeah, I'm not sure, and I don't know. People who knew Jake from back in the day might be able to confirm and say, no, he is exactly like he was 20 years ago when I knew him, and he has not changed even slightly, in which case all the blame would be on Jake. But if they're like, no, man, he seems really weird compared to what he used to be, then might have something to do with the hits to the head. And someone pointed out when I mentioned fighters and so on, people were mentioning Chris Benoit. Yeah, Chris Benoit. Let's see right here. Yeah, Chris Benoit. I mean, he killed his wife and son, and then himself. But same thing. That guy had tons of concussions over the years, and it messes you up. And some people, it just turns very, very violent and so on. Not sure what this is about. D Wood say, "Not my gumdrop button."
Not my gumdrop buttons! How dare you!
I don't even think that's a good impression, but for some reason, someone wanted me to do it. Let's see. All right. So what else do we have here? We've got Jess Natali. I have zero clue who that is. Who is that?
I only remember her. She kind of looks like an actress. It's funny, but I only remember her because there was a video of her going around. She's an activist at some pro-Hamas movement in America, and she said, I think Israel needs to be abolished by all means or something like that. I don't know, but not somebody who is terribly well known.
Yeah, no way she could win because I don't know who she is. Now, I have heard of the next one, Jackson Hinkle. Sounds like a real. He's like the pro Iran Russia guy, wasn't he?
Here is the thing: what you need to know about Jackson
on that side?
is that he does whatever he does just for money. His entire account was built around maxing of revenue, and he has other accounts that are completely established on that. He even has accounts that are called like rev maxing, which means revenue maxing, where he just talks about the stock market and crypto and things like that. It's all just about money, but he turned those accounts, some of them even still having the same handles, into pro-Palestine accounts and pro-Syria and pro-Russia accounts. It heavily suspiciously looks like he just got a chance due to big influence to be paid by Russia, so he accepted it and just started becoming an agent for them.
And I have to say, we know this happens because of what happened with what's her face? I don't remember her name.
Lauren Chen.
Yeah, Lauren Chen. That she got. I don't even know if she's tweeted since then. I remember she wasn't tweeting after a while, but yeah, Lauren Chen got exposed for taking what was it, like $10 million payment from Russia to promote their stuff.
Stupid about it as well. Like she was just openly communicating, mailing with her partner that she was in on it with about the Russians want us to do this and this and that, and of course the government, once they got a hold of the communications, busted her, and she hasn't tweeted anything ever since.
And then we have Candace Owens. We already know about her. We're going to be seeing plenty from her. Then we have Dan Bilzerian, whom I didn't hear about until I never heard of him until like a couple months ago when he started popping up. But go ahead.
Wait. Very important information on Jackson Hinkle, by the way. He had somebody mentioned this in chat, but he had a Russian girlfriend who was like who was a model or something like that from Russia directly, who lived with him for a while and who separated from him. And after separating, I think went to Russia or so, but she said a few things when people asked her, and said that he is a very sick and abusive, narcissistic guy who, by the way, doesn't care in private at all about the things that he talks about online.
Interesting. Yeah, so as far as his hostility towards Jews this entire year, you'd think, oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense for this guy to be a finalist. But if it's kind of understood that he's just a grifter and just using an opportunity to make some bucks, then I don't think he can actually win. Dan Bilzerian, what about your buddy Dan? And what's up with his haircut?
Ultra degenerate if you want to judge degeneracy, which is very, very ironic because many of these people happen to be people who grift and try to appeal to certain parts of the population by saying, oh, degeneracy corrupting society, and then they will accuse Jews, for example, of corrupting society and spreading degeneracy and so on. This is the guy who he became famous because his father was rich and he went gambling and so on.
Must be nice.
Started having prostitutes and online models and so on, always in bikinis or naked on his property, filming with them, doing little videos and little gigs with them, shooting his guns and so on, and basically firing all his money away. There was even a point where a lender said that they are a danger of not being able to get anything back or something like that, and he had to declare bankruptcy. He got in trouble for kicking a woman in the face at a bar during a fight, which he then later said.
Well, what did she do? Maybe it's her fault.
He said he was breaking up a fight, but if I was breaking up a fight, I wouldn't kick a woman in the face.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because after I became a Christian in jail, like I broke up a ton of fights in prison. And I jump in between and I'll go, guys, you want to go home? Don't you want to go home? Do you want to go home? Do you want to go home? What's more important to you, hitting this guy or going home and stuff like that? But I never kicked anyone in the face while trying to break it up. never crossed my mind there. Oh, let me break this up. Whack! Aha! In your face. That's kind of
I
weird.
remember seeing this guy when I was like first on social media, I don't know, a decade ago or so, and thought I thought back then, well, it's really messed up how people love to support somebody like this, that they get nothing in return from, who contributes nothing to society, and who does nothing except live a completely, lavish, degenerate life that he himself only enjoys because he has a rich daddy, and people are just watching it and sharing it. And they're like, "Whoa, whoa, look at this!" It's so dumb. But anyway, the guy has nothing in his brains, and he has recently started adopting this whole anti-Israel, anti-Jewish narrative, including spreading propaganda such as that the Jews in Israel have no connection to the land, and the real Semites are the Palestinians. Completely stupid, ridiculous, ignorant talking points that you could debunk in a minute if you sat together with him. But unfortunately, he's not one to talk. He's just one to speak in an echo chamber.
And he actually comes up in Pierce's discussion with Candace Owens on anti-Semitism. But just let me be clear here, because again, I've only seen him a couple times that he's popped up. Like if you're talking about Cori Bush, and you say, okay, why is anyone paying attention to Cori Bush? Okay, she was a congresswoman and so on, so I get that. Greta Thunberg, we know how she rose to fame. Candace Owens, she's been a political commentator for many years. We understand why people are listening to her. As far as Dan Bilzerian, did he have any sort of redeeming feature for why we should listen to him, or was it just rich guy losing money and gambling, and somehow people end up paying attention to him?
There's literally no redeeming feature at all. Okay. Nothing at all. No contribution to society.
And then we have here at the end, we have Bassem Youssef, whom you can't stand. I actually think he's hilarious, even when I disagree with him. But what's your take on Bassem?
I honestly, whenever I see Bassem speak, I turn it off and don't want to pay attention because he annoys the crap out of me. I don't think he's funny. He's just very embarrassing, and he has these very terrible takes. And he's I don't know. I don't like the guy at all.
Look, you could be evil and still be hilarious, right?
Of course, but I don't think
it's like you're always telling me, you're like, okay, Hitler was wrong about a few things, but he's the greatest speaker of all time.
But that's different.
His speeches are the most eloquent. All right.
Have you seen the paintings?
The paintings are the greatest. All right, everyone. So these are the finalists. These are the finalists for 2024 Anti-Semite of the Year. I would scratch off like 5 of them as no way they're going to win. And then so it would come down to a few candidates. I have to say, if I were to think back on the year and I were to give out the award, I would probably say that Candace should win it for the reasons we mentioned at the beginning. Not saying she's the most hateful person, not saying she's the most evil person, not saying any of that stuff. Just it's based on the fact that she already had a following, and then she steered that following over towards that, and therefore created a lot of new anti-Semites, people who wouldn't have been anti-Semites a year ago but are now. All thanks to Candace. We have a poll going on. It is at 68%. 68%, ladies and gentlemen. I asked a simple question. Is Candace Owens an anti-Semite? And so far, 68% are saying yes. So let's see what happens. Because, guys, again, we are going to let Candace speak in her own defense, explain her thinking on these issues, and that might change. By the end, it might be 20% saying that she's an anti-Semite. Or as we listen to her, people might think, oh, this chick's messed up. So it might change, or it might remain the same. We will see. But we have a good baseline. It's been between 68 and 70%. We assume that all the groypers are messaging each other right now. Come over, we have to vote on this poll. Get the whole crew together. Tell Nick to send out a tweet to come over here and vote and say that Candace is not an anti-Semite.
Yeah, I hope this is not your audience voting 68% only.
Well, when you put Candace Owens an anti-Semite of the year, you get a lot. You get new viewers. You get the Candace fans, and you get the Groyper fans, and so on. So,
what are your thoughts on this? Very briefly before we go into it. At the end, we can change our views entirely. Of course. What is your view on this? Is she an anti-Semite?
I would say yes, but it is relevant to always ask, kind of what do you mean by this? Because this is going to come up. It's how it gets represented by Groypers and Candace and so on is that, anti-Semitism, charging someone with anti-Semitism is just a way to block any criticism of Israel or anything any Jews do and so on. And as far as just you can't say anything against Jews, I'm not saying that if you say something about what some Jew did, or if you say something, or if you complain about something that Israel did, that you're an anti-Semite. That you could look at something Israel did and say this is wrong. You could look at you could look at the war right now and say we need a ceasefire. That would not make me think that you're an anti-Semite. You could say look at this evil thing that Jeffrey Epstein did and so on. What sort of sick nonsense is this? It wouldn't cross my mind that you're an anti-Semite. It's sort of, for me, it's like a pattern of behavior. You start fixating on things. You start going to conspiracy theories where I'm looking at them going, there are perfectly reasonable explanations for everything you're saying right now that doesn't involve the Jewish conspiracy that you're appealing to, but you become obsessed with it. You start going through history and finding any event you could talk about and blaming Jews for it. That's a big part of it for me. And then the other part is when you're holding Jews to standards that you would never hold anyone else to. Like if it was anyone else on the planet, any other nation on the planet, if a bunch of terrorists who actually control the government of the country that's invading or whatever, a bunch of people, thousands of terrorists crossed your border, slaughtered tons of people, men, women, and children, rape, torture, all that stuff, and then took a bunch of hostages, fled back, I don't think any country on the planet would instantly start hearing ceasefire, 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 ceasefire. Do not retaliate. Do not go after them. You have no right to go after them. You have no right to go get your people back. You have no right to punish the people. So you have people who hold Israel to this standard, and you say, why are they held to a standard that no one else on the planet would be held to? And even when you're examining what they've done, we pointed out many times, if you look at the civilian to combatant ratio, that is better than pretty much anyone else in history. They have a better track record in this war than pretty much anyone else in history would have gotten. And I don't think anyone else would have gotten this ratio of civilian to combatant deaths if they were put in the same situation. Namely, there's a bunch of guys, they're using human shields, they're hiding under schools, that's a nightmare situation. I don't think anyone else would have done as good a job as Israel. And yet it's not just, oh, guys, you haven't been careful enough. I could actually understand that. Guys, look, you need to be more careful because look at that baby who just died. I don't care how many warnings you send us. I don't think you're insane if you're saying, hey, be more careful or something like that. But it's not. That's not the charge. It's genocide. It's ethnic cleansing. It's like, wait, what are you looking at here? What are you looking at here? When you look at one of the best records we've ever seen in the history of urban warfare in terms of how careful they're being, and all you see is genocide, they're trying to wipe out everyone. To me, there's some other factor involved, and I don't know what the other factor could be. It seems like it just, unless it's just what we call anti-Semitism. Jews are in a different category in your mind. They can never do right, and so you're always going to condemn them. So that's my views on there.
Yeah, my view is, yes, she's an anti-Semite.
Notice, D. Wood, Christian, always provides evidence for everything he says. AP just says it and expects everyone to believe it. Agnostic. Draw your own conclusions. All right, what?
Let's watch.
Okay, no, didn't want to watch it yet. Just wanted to go through what they said. So this is Stop Anti-Semitism. It's that time of year again. Vote and help us crown the 2024 Anti-Semite of the Year. Some nominees might even be proud to make this infamous list. Last year, Rashida Tlaib swept the vote. Interesting. So she won the 2023. This year, 10 new Jew haters are competing for the dishonor. Help us pick the top 3 to be announced on December 15th with the ultimate Jew hater crowned on January 6, 2025. Wait a minute. Crowned on 2025? They already crowned her, didn't they?
What? Who?
She already won.
Sorry.
Why are they saying it will be the ultimate Jew hater crowned on January 6, 2025? How'd she already win? Anyway, okay, we'll figure this out.
That's one thing very famous. I don't know. I have no idea.
All right, so guys, we'll go rapid fire through. This list. We've already pointed to all the pictures, but Hassan Piker, Turkish-American streamer, uses his Twitch platform to glorify terrorism and spread anti-Semitism. After the October 7th Hamas massacre, Piker defended the terrorists, denying documented atrocities like mass rape and murder. Despite violating Twitch's community guidelines, he profits while spreading hateful propaganda. Then we have Cori Bush has cemented her reputation as a staunch anti-Semite through a disgraceful voting record, ties to Jew haters, and support for pro-terrorist mobs on campuses. Hours after the October 7th massacre, she blamed Israel's apartheid policies instead of condemning Hamas's atrocities. Following her re-election defeat, Bush scapegoated the Jewish community, specifically AIPAC, for her loss.
Oh,
you see, the reason I lost is not because my insane, deranged policies are suddenly becoming unpopular in the United States because they don't work. No, it's the Jews. John, what is it, Cusack or Cusack? I don't know. John, let's say Cusack, once a popular actor, has repeatedly spread anti-Semitic slander. His X feed is rife with blood libel, conspiracy theories, and vile tropes, comparing Jews to white supremacists, denying Hamas's October 7th atrocities, and falsely claiming Israel created Hamas. Despite past apologies, his ongoing rhetoric exposes his deep-seated hostility towards Jews. Greta Thunberg has turned her climate activism into a platform for Jew hatred. That's another kind of side issue. I mean, is that like Greta had all the climate people on her side, and then she goes full anti-Semite and so on. Since the 10/7 massacre, she joined keffiyeh-clad protesters voicing disdain for the Jewish state, from chanting "Crush Zionism" at protests to targeting Israeli Eurovision participants. Thunberg's activism now fuels anti-Jewish hostility. Jake Shields, what?
I wonder if we are going to get to a point where the conversation comes up about whether opposing Zionism or opposing Israel's existence is inherently anti-Semitic or not. But there is just one thing, which is whenever people have a problem with a country around the world, notice the only time that people have a problem with a certain country, and then they suggest immediately that this country should not exist or should be abolished, is when they're talking about Israel. It never happens when we talk about different countries. Never happens. We talk about the different countries and how horrible they are, how terrible they are, all the things that they have done, and so on. And we talk about how messed up they are, and they are not our partner, and this and that. When we talk about Israel, the conversation very, very quickly gets to oppose Zionism, abolish Israel, destroy Israel. If Israel was abolished, by the way, what would happen would be that those who want the Jews killed and oppressed would take over, and they would do what they wanted. They would kill and oppress the Jews. The other side is not oppressed inside Israel. But yes, the only country where people immediately resort to abolish it, destroy it, it shall not exist, is Israel. No other country ever is held to that same standard with that same attitude.
That is correct. And so all the people calling for, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. There's a question. What do you do with the Jews there? You can't say put them under the control of Hamas. We know what would happen. So you would say, oh, okay, we'll just deport all the Jews back to where they belong. Okay, why not deport all the people in Gaza or something like that? Why is this the only group of millions of people that you're saying get off the place where you're born and raised? Yeah. And again, it's the only people who anyone says this about, right? You don't say if there's there's a Syrian civil war that's been going on. You have calls for Assad to step aside and things like that, but it's just weird. You don't say, Syria has no right to exist. Syria should be wiped out and given to someone else.
So anyway, it's just, yeah, it is interesting. But Jake Shields, former MMA and UFC fighter, uses his massive social media following to spread anti-Semitic rhetoric. He denies Hamas's violent sexual assaults during the October 7th massacre, promotes Jewish control conspiracies, spreads lies about Israel, and praises terrorist organizations, doubling down on his Jew hatred throughout 2024. A lot of people doubled down on it.
He tweeted a thing today, which was, I don't know if you saw that. It's a typical Nazi anti-Jew cartoon that he posted where an extremely stereotypical looking monster version of a religious Jew is eating the flesh and organs and blood of an American figure. So basically implying that the Jews are controlling and destroying America from within and so on. This is like typical Nazi propaganda that was going around, and he posted this. And notice also that he gets away with that kind of stuff. Somebody makes a joke about the Irish people, for example, the other day and gets suspended.
Interesting.
Things have really gone down a very, very weird path.
Jess, Natalie, we don't know her, a Brooklyn-based content creator behind So Informed, spreads Jew hatred disguised as news. Her platform regularly delegitimizes Israel, promotes Al Jazeera and Middle East Eye propaganda, and aligns with the pro-terror group Within Our Lifetime. Natalie's feed is filled with blood libel, pro-terror imagery, and false claims about Israel, all while ignoring ongoing hostages in Gaza and rising anti-Semitism. Her so-called activism masks her hatred for the Jewish people. And we have Jackson Hinkle, self-proclaimed pro-Russian American patriot Marxist Leninist, idiot, has shamelessly profited from the tragedy of the October 7th massacre. Obsessed with Israel, Hinkle spreads dangerous misinformation about the Israel-Hamas war, promotes anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and focuses almost exclusively on attacking Jews and Israel. He openly praises terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, even shedding tears over the deaths of their leaders. How could my hero have got his balls blown off? Candace Owens, conservative commentator and activist, has made her deep-seated hatred for Jews clear through her words and actions. This year, she disgustingly dismissed Holocaust horrors, including Dr. Mengele's grotesque experiments, as propaganda.
Yeah,
we did see that. We watched that back in the day. So it doesn't make any sense. Why would they be doing these experiments? And she's acting like this stuff is made up about what they were doing. I guess you could say the exact same thing about experiments the Japanese were doing in World War II. They were doing some sick, evil experiments as well. But maybe it's all propaganda, and because it doesn't make sense to Candace. Her Holocaust denial, spread of blood libel, and relentless anti-Semitic rhetoric have solidified her place on this year's list of those actively spreading hatred against the Jewish people. We have Dan the Dork Bilzerian, an infamous misogynist, has earned his spot among this year's most dangerous Jew haters. Since 2011, he's peddled anti-Semitic rhetoric, including blaming Jews for the 9/11 attacks. He's since denied the rapes and beheadings during the October 7th massacre, pushed grotesque blood libel, and praised terrorist leader Yahya Sinwar. Yahya Sinwar, whom AP recently had a debate with. He likes me, but not AP. Bilzerian's ongoing promotion of hatred and violence against Jews confirms his position as one of the year's most toxic figures.
He also praised Hezbollah as patriotic people who have all the right to defend themselves, which is a very, very interesting point. I'm going to make a note on that because I want to get back to that later on.
And Bassem Youssef, an Egyptian-American anti-Semitic agitator with a massive podcast following, uses his platform to spread harmful misinformation and conspiracy theories about Jews. His most egregious moments include falsely accusing Israel of killing its own citizens during the October 7th massacre, denying Hamas's atrocities, and claiming Jews exploit a victimhood card. His influence amplifies these toxic narratives, fueling the global rise in anti-Semitism. So killing its own citizens, I guess he's talking about like during the attacks.
Yeah, he says that Israel mass killed their own civilian population on October 7, and bases this on the same repeatedly debunked reports that he uses repeatedly again and again. Whenever he is refuted, whenever evidence is presented to him, he ignores it, and the next day shares the same propaganda again. He argues that the most people killed on October 7 were actually killed by Israel, which is a horrible, horrible lie.
So that's different from what Candace says. Candace says that basically the Israeli leaders knew about the attack in advance, and they wanted it to happen, and that's why they didn't deal with it, and they let a bunch of people be killed because they wanted it to happen because they want to go and steal the land of Gaza. So that's different. A person could adhere to either one of those. So you could believe that they knew the attack was coming, but weren't actually involved in killing people, or you can believe they didn't know about it, but they opened fire on their own people, or you can believe both of them and it's all part of the same plot. But these are some of the conspiracy theories that are going around.
These are based on misinformation, but I think we
You're based on misinformation.
When we get to it, we can talk about it. But there is one thing that in Israel people have been talking about since the attack happened, which is that there were warning signs and there were warnings to different government bodies and security forces and so on. But it seems that there was no action taken and it went ignored because the government, the different branches of the government, were too busy attacking each other instead of taking the threat seriously, which then resulted in this. If you actually talk about it, and I'm sure we can get to this because this is part of the topic, it doesn't make any sense that Netanyahu would know about the attack and stand down. He would be in no position to do that. Believing that Netanyahu has the power to know that an attack is coming and to stand down because he wants to personally solidify his position and take power and grab land and all that is even harder, is even worse than believing in the moon landing, which is, I know, I did this on purpose.
You're condemning people for believing in the moon landing, AP?
Sorry, I mean believing in the moon landing. I mean believing in the moon landing conspiracy theories. I mean denying the moon landing. So
believing this is even worse than believing people landed on the moon.
It's almost as bad as believing in a flat Earth, to be honest. It doesn't make any sense. Netanyahu doesn't have the power or the status to make such decisions. But yeah, let's go on.
Hey, I'm just going to go as far as conspiracy theories that involve the government. Guys, I want to point out that there's a reason I almost never believe them. Now, keep in mind, you can have conspiracies. These things do happen. You can have a government plot and so on. But there's a huge problem when you're saying the government is actually involved in this. Your leaders are actually involved in this. Namely, these things would be carried out by an administration, and their eventual opponents would find out about this, right? Wouldn't they have access to government records? In other words, I'm talking about other conspiracy theories, like the U.S. was behind the 9/11 attacks. It was the George W. Bush administration's plot to, guess what? Seize Arab land for the oils, right? So that's the plan. We're gonna attack our own people, bring down these buildings, all so we can go and take over Arab land and take over their oil. That was the theory. No, it's one version of the theory. There are multiple theories, but so the U.S. government did it. George W. did it. Okay, well, suppose George W. did this and they had this plot. Doesn't George know that another administration's coming in a couple of years and they're going to what? They're going to have access. They're going to have access to all this information. If you're talking about a plan to bring down giant buildings and what that would require, there's a lot of people involved. What doesn't the next administration find out about this stuff and know all this stuff? Okay, if you wanted a slam dunk case against the previous administration for the next election, Wouldn't you want to bring that stuff up? Wouldn't you be like, hey, matter of fact, let me tell you what the last administration did. Yep, that 9/11, all that stuff, right? Don't be blaming the Muslims. Nope, that was our own leaders. Here's the documents. We're releasing them to the public. Case closed.
No.
That you have just
people.
wiped out an entire political party overnight.
No, it's because all the government, they're just giving
Everyone.
you the illusion that they are different sides. They are actually all working together.
And it's all
They're
Jews. And
they're
they're all
all
Jews.
But get this. It's actually deeper than that. They only appear to be Jews, but they're actually lizard people who are changing their skin to appear like Jews.
And what's the situation with Bibi? AP, does Netanyahu have a bunch of political rivals?
Yes, bigly. That's
So
that's currently one of the biggest things to talk about in Israel right now. People talk about Israel all the time, and mostly they talk right now about the war and different military actions within Israel. It's kind of split right now. The discussion is between the war and Netanyahu's war with different branches inside the government that have been going back and forth, and the secret services are trying to get Netanyahu. He's trying to get them. Different contenders are trying to get him, and he's trying to get them, and so on. There's a big infighting going on that has been going on for quite a while. So to to suggest that the same secret services that are seeking dirt on Netanyahu and that want to take him down would collaborate with him on October 7th is ridiculously stupid.
Yeah. It's very ridiculous, guys. So you have people who are trying to bring down Netanyahu, accusing him of corruption, saying we need to put this guy on trial and so on. The response is, oh, but that's why the Netanyahu government carried out this attack and played a role in it. And it's like, okay, wouldn't all these people trying to bring him down for corruption be able to use this very easily?
Yes.
And look at the you can spot the conspiracy guys here. Both parties voted for the war. Both parties voted for the war because both parties believed that they had been attacked and that they believed all kinds of other things. That's not what we're talking about, Wilmer. We're saying, do these parties love to bring each other down and spread propaganda and even against each other? Yeah. Okay, if a party okay. Womer, let me ask you. So you're saying that both parties actually so it's not like George Bush and some people in power, like Democrats and Republicans unanimously decided to bring down the Twin Towers. I bet he's going to say yes. Yes, that's what they did. And what's your evidence? Well, it doesn't make sense because I saw this video and how it doesn't make sense the way the building fell. You see, our government. This is what we're talking about. There are people who will believe any idiotic, insane conspiracy theory. Okay, E. Wilmer. To get your theory to work, you would say 100% of the politicians at that time were behind this, right? They were all involved and they all agreed. Everyone agreed. You know what? It would be a great idea. We'll blow up our own buildings right in the middle of New York, and then so we can start a war to go get a bunch of oil, and then we're not even going to get what we wanted. That's the plan, and everyone agreed on this, right? And no one ever had second thoughts and said, you know what? I need to expose what just happened because we were wrong. Nope. They all agreed, and they all. But then you have like later administrations of people who didn't agree because they're new politicians. And so they would find out about this, right? Because everyone knows, everyone behind the scenes. And no one ever comes out and says, guys, we did something wrong. No one ever repents of that and brings it out. You're a freaking lunatic, you giant clown. This is what you sound like.
The thing is, people don't think about one simple fact, which is that the people who work for the government,
The big plane crashes into this building. And building falls down. I think, hey, probably big plane flying in the building. No, the government is Democrats and Republicans being controlled by Jews.
People think that everyone who works for the government or everyone who goes into politics is some higher being who has a special contract with some people behind secret, in some secret chamber that control everything. it's not that complicated. They are regular people, people who go for the government positions, people who become part of parliaments, who become part of Congress, and so on, are regular people. Some of them happen to be also very incompetent and very dumb people who are elected because they achieve something. They get, I don't know, they manage to speak to other people who are also dumb. They manage to evoke some sympathy. They are known for something else, which is why people think, "Oh, I know this guy. I'm going to vote for this guy." It's not a bunch of genius-minded evil people going and working for the government branches. It's regular people who are sometimes very incompetent and very unreliable, pulled together and elected to make choices for you and me. And sometimes those choices happen to be very, very bad choices.
They sure do. All right, let's go ahead, and we have all sorts of other people. No, the United States, they did. It's funny. I bring it up. I bring it up to explain to people why I tend not to believe that, the government was behind this and it was a government plot, namely because in countries where you have multiple political parties that would use that as political ammunition very easily and could instantly destroy their political rivals over this, for me, that leaves the option of either you believe they're all behind it, in which case it's a massive conspiracy. And by the way, there's a problem with massive conspiracies. The more people involved in a conspiracy, generally, the more quickly it breaks down. If you have two loyal twin brothers who would never betray each other and they have a conspiracy, it's hard to break that conspiracy down because they're extremely loyal to each other. If you have 10 people in a conspiracy, it's more easy for it to break down because you can have the weakest link and people might have second thoughts. If you have thousands and thousands of people in on a conspiracy, this would be the problem with saying that the moon landings were a big hoax. Thousands and thousands of people were involved in the moon landings, right? If this is all some sort of big hoax, all the building of the rockets and all this stuff, the filming, all this stuff, you would expect, you'd be an instant multi-millionaire just to come out with the book and the proof.
Powerful.
So every one of these things, every one of these times you're saying a conspiracy, they're conspiracies that would be very quickly known and uncovered by people who are involved or by their successors and so on. If they have really good incentive to expose them, but never, ever do, then if I'm looking at the evidence and I go, why do they have all this stuff about these guys landing on the moon? I go, because they land on the moon? No, because of the conspiracy by NASA, because they want to do this, blah, 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 the government. Okay, these planes just crashed into those buildings and the buildings fell down. What caused? I don't know. The planes crashing into the building? No, it's a government conspiracy. No, it's Jews and you got laughing Jews. The Jews are laughing. This is the proof that the Jews are controlling the U.S. government. Okay, that sounds insane. October 7th, what happened? You got a bunch of guys climbing over fences. They're parasailing and stuff like that, and they're going around slaughtering people. What's it? No, because Netanyahu understands he's on corruption charges. He wants to steal the land. I kind of go with the easy, obvious reason until there's a really, really good response. And guys, the Jews are behind it is not a good response to me. So I'm gonna continue going with the obvious. This thing happened and it caused this. Pretty simple to understand. No, there's something even better. And it's this massive, insane conspiracy that makes absolutely no sense and never gets exposed except for by lunatics on Twitter. Interesting. All right, so we're backed up on Super Chats. Let's go through a couple Super Chats, and then we'll see the award, who won the award. We already know who won the award, but we'll check that out, and then we will listen to Candace and her acceptance speech and her talking to Pierce Morgan and things like that. Joyous Advent from Tokyo. God bless. Don't let AP say Tokyo. He'll do it with an offensive accent.
Tokyo.
Muhammad's wives when they catch him with Diha in the boom boom room. So that's what you've been doing in your night journeys. Hey, can you imagine if what really happened as far as the night journey background is Muhammad snuck out with Diha and his wives where'd you go? What happened? What happened? Where'd you go? Oh, I was with the angel Gabriel took me on a magic donkey ride.
It's funny. He could have been, oh, the original version was, oh, the angel Gabriel. He took me on a magical ride, and I ascended into the heavens with our wonderful journey. And like, but you never left your bed. So, oh, you're right, I never did. Weird stuff.
Well, we already know what happened is that he peed his bed. He had a dream and he peed the bed. And he said he went on a ride, and when he came back, his bed was still very, very warm.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yep. From the Xbox to the Wii, PlayStation will be free. That's true.
That's true.
Free PlayStations. Gutes Sagen to both of you. I wanted to inform you that a terrorist attack took place in Germany, Magdeburg. 11 people dead, 60 to 80 people injured. Now, AP, there's still more. This is breaking news and so on. I don't remember if it was when we were live yesterday or on during This Week in Jihad, but I remarked that, there could be attacks because this is a popular time of year to do attacks, Christmas and New Year's. They like to go after Christmas markets and so on.
But before you go on with this topic, I want to say that there is information coming in about this attack that's
what I was going to say. That this may not be an Islamic terrorist attack.
Yeah. There is information coming in, and so first off, yes. There is a terrorist attack that happened, or an attack that happened, and people died. Lots of people were injured, and I wish those who were left injured and anyone else all the best. Always thought German Christmas markets were one of the best things about Germany that I remembered. However, the attack, not 11 people, but 2 people are dead so far. 68 are injured. Some of them are severely injured. But the thing is, while everyone, after so many Islamist terrorist attacks, thought that this is an Islamist terrorist attack initially, apparently the person who committed the attack was identified as a Saudi Arabian guy who came to Germany as a refugee and who worked there as a doctor and psychiatrist for many, many years, and who is actually anti-Islam and pro-West, and has accused the German government of helping the Islamization of Europe and so on. And the thing is that, as far as the way it looks right now, the person has been identified and is actually known on Twitter, has 40,000 followers. In fact, he has been following me, and I have been following him very recently, since August or something like that, for no other reason other than I saw that this person is anti-Saudi Arabia, so I thought, oh, interesting, we'll follow. So apparently it turns out that he had some beef with the German government, and he was recently going crazy and accusing, in some very paranoid looking posts, of the German government of working together with Saudi Arabia and trying to crack down on political and religious fugitives, and trying to kill him and trying to act against him, and infiltrating the ex-Saudi Arabian refugee movement from within and trying to destroy them and so on. And he made a post. I was looking at this earlier. Apparently he made a post several months ago saying, if they try to kill me, then we will slaughter them, or some crazy things like that in Arabic. So here's the thing. It turns out that this guy, either he did not do this in the name of Islam, but because of different things, and I really want to sit down tonight and tomorrow to read more upon this, and wait for more. Or, as some people have speculated, this guy had a very long-term plot and came in as a non-Muslim refugee to then carry out such an attack, which seems a little bit absurd to me, honestly, that he would, apparently because he came to Germany a long time ago. Apparently he lived in Germany since 2006 or something like that. So
so basically it does happen that people will say, oh, let's say, hey, I'm an atheist, I'm in Saudi Arabia, I'm in danger, so let me come there. And they're not. But you're saying that would be kind of weird. This guy comes in and then spends 20 years waiting to carry out his attack.
So I'm just learning things within the last 2 hours or 3 hours or so, and loosely following the updates. But I will talk more about. It's funny because the guy has been following me apparently, and has also shared certain things that I did. And earlier I saw Suleiman Ahmed post, "The terrorist was a fan of the apostate prophet." And
Suleiman said that.
yes, and shared a screenshot of him commenting on my on one of my joke posts where I divided Syria into different parts and said, "I have made my decision. This is how we're going to partition Syria."
Powerful.
And the guy who apparently committed the attack posted like, "Oh, lucky Israel" or something like that. And he took a screenshot of this. See, the terrorist is a fan of the apostate prophet. I don't know who this guy is, why he did this for. It seems like a insane thing to do. I really want to know more about this until I can really say something.
It does suck for Suleiman not winning, not even being mentioned for Antisemite of the Year, right? I mean, he's like, I worked so hard and everyone just thinks I'm a fat, dumb loser. Nick Fuentes? Fuentes, not even on the list, and you got some random chick that I've never heard of, and they don't even have Nick Fuentes. That's gotta suck, man. It's like, I thought I was so important to these guys, and no, they think you're just a loser in his basement. Pelican74 says, David, how much does Israel pay you for these views? Lots. It's right here. I get 13,000 shekels per week. 13,000 shekels per week. Cash money. That's how much. Now you know. So this was the yes, Gottes Segen to you too. God's blessings. Skyscraper Philosopher says, seen that Saudi German terrorist was ex-Muslim. Yes, we just talked about that. But you posted that before. Candace, an Antisemite. I did not see this coming. Get it? I did not see this coming. Shame that Dennis Prager propped up this immortal grifter and supported her in her early years. He must feel terrible about it now. Well, she's going to mention Prager as proof that she's not anti-Semite. I actually don't think she dislikes Jews. I think she's just dumb. Well, that's pretty rude. I love the work you do, but I have to disagree that democracy is a good system. Objectivism for the win. No gods or kings, only man. Yeah, it works well wherever it's tried. Oh, wait, never has been. Thanks. I'm thinking in terms of intensity. Jake Shields in terms of popularity. Jake's nephew in terms of actual public influence. Candace Owens. Okay, so in intensity, Jake Shields. In terms of popularity, Jake's nephew. In terms of actual public influence, Candace Owens. Who's Jake's nephew? Do we know who Jake's nephew is?
Jake's nephew is Hassan Piker.
Was that a joke or is that true?
It's true.
Really?
Yeah. They are related. He's his nephew.
What a dork. I guess the dork gene runs strong in that family, ladies and gentlemen. Greta equals Swedish Aisha. No, she's way older than Aisha now. Thank you, fam, for challenging anti-Semitism. We have not even begun to challenge anti-Semitism, Isa. You'll see. I agree with AP that the Nazis were the most evil people ever, but they were created through the societal degradation of Weimar Germany. What you'd say is when your society starts falling apart or degrading or something like this, that this allows people to jump in.
I never said the Nazis were the most evil people ever. So I'm not sure why you agree with me.
Yeah, don't be putting words in AP's mouth, Zappy97.
I would say that the Nazis were really, really messed up and really evil. And Hitler himself was really, really, really messed up and one of the worst people to ever make it to a government position and to lead a nation and so on. And his inner circle was full of incredibly mentally unwell and sick and evil, messed up people. But I wouldn't say that they were the most evil people ever.
Candace Owens walks into hell. She's relieved it's not run by the Jews. Love your work. Keep up with the good fight. Stay away from Islam.
True.
Very based. Ida says, you know it happens because it happens to you because you are paid by the Mossad and Shin Bet. Yes.
It's true.
We know it happens. Oh, I think that was, we know it happens that people get paid for stuff because Lauren Chen actually got exposed for taking millions of dollars and stuff. So yes, but how we know because we get the payments, we get the fat stacks of shekels.
We get the hikmah.
Chag Sameach, happy Hanukkah. Put on your yarmulke, it's time for Hanukkah. So much Hanukkah to celebrate Hanukkah. Just Natalie, who is this thalidomide baby? Get this big chinned mask looking out of the race. Not my Antisemite waterhead. What is this?
Terrible, terrible.
Candace Owens is one of the worst because she's a scorned, bitter woman. Ever since her ex-Jewish boyfriend, she's been on a rampage against the Jews. So-called you're calling all these Nazis out.
Look at this stupid stuff here. Like this, the people that come in here. Dan said, "Oh, really, AP? Hitler worst, but communists kill count 200 million. Not bad, guys." This is just an example of what kind of brain dead people come into this discussion because they are Hitler fans or Nazi fans. When did I ever, let alone today, when did I ever say that the communists were not bad guys? When did I ever say that the USSR was not bad? On the contrary.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When did he say Stalin's paintings were great?
You probably don't keep things like this in mind, but I have even on many occasions said that the communists were horrible, that the Soviet Union was disgusting and atrocious, and so on. Because I'm not the leftist, opposition to your Nazi mind. I'm actually consistent, Dan. Idiot.
Yeah, and I think you could make a serious debate on who was more evil, the Soviets or the Nazis. And they absolute scum. They killed many tens of millions of their own people. And the things they did with Ukraine, just going in there and destroying all their food, destroying all their crops, bringing in food sniffing dogs to find out where they had food, where they were hiding seeds or anything, getting rid of it all, and then just starving the entire population. That's pretty much as sick as you can get. And that's kind of like my thing is why Ukrainians have every right in the universe to say, we do not want to be controlled by you guys ever again.
It's kind of funny because the same people who are like, "Oh, you never say anything about the communists, about the USSR."
Screw the communists; they're all a bunch of freaking lunatics and morons. You happy?
They're the same people who support the one side that early on made a deal with the Soviets. The Nazis made a deal with the Soviets. They were allied. They were partners. They were partners in crime. They were trying to take over Europe together. Of course, the eventual plan was to backstab each other and to kill each other. But they made a deal against all the other free nations. They were both sick, and I can say, in my opinion, looking at it, the Nazis were worse than the Soviets, but the Soviets were also not very far off.
Merry Christmas, guys! Big hugs. It's not Christmas yet,
Powerful,
but it will be soon.
It is for me.
Would one of you, including Robert, get in contact with Candace to educate her on the history of this conflict and why she's wrong? I don't think we'll be trying to contact her, but if you want to, then you're welcome to contact her and say we'd like to see a discussion between her and Robert Spencer or AP, whatever she wants.
What you need to know about Candace Owens is that she is not somebody who is interested in facts and in changing her mind and learning about the truth and all that. She's interested in grifting, going for a certain agenda, and so on. She's not somebody that you should respect as somebody who is just ignorant and could learn about the truth. She's a grifter, a liar, a fraudster, and she does much of this probably because of her husband or things like that. And I know very well. I sent her. She blocked me just because I responded to her to something that she said on Twitter with a post about Andrew Tate attached to a clip where Andrew Tate admits multiple times to being basically a human trafficker. She blocked me just for that, which is just a sign that she is one of those people who, when faced with evidence, will just turn it off. and keep shouting the propaganda. She is not an honest person. She's not a respectable person. She does not care about the truth. She's a scam, a fraudster.
And that is one of the most racist things I've ever heard in my life.
Thank you.
Zappy97 says AP should have What If Falfist on to discuss Weimar Germany and the rise of Nazism. He's a good history YouTuber.
I know that Weimar Germany was bad. It wasn't the worst thing